Well, the video game that Jeff Keighley wanted us to play so much is finally out, and, well, it's not looking so good.
I've played it, and after you see this trailer, I think you're going to want to as well.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
You know what's even worse than the fact that it has a mostly negative on Steam? Is the fact that it was made by Wildlight Entertainment Incorporated, which is an indie studio, which means my behind has to look at it. I should have changed my name somewhere along the way. It's crazy how at the end of the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley built this game up so much, thinking that we would all fall in love with this thing. Which is kind of funny because I always knew that Jeff Keighley's taste in video games was way different from the normal everyday person. But okay, yeah, sure, people start playing the game on the first day, it almost makes it to 100,000 concurrent players. And to be honest, I thought it was going to actually be a good game because, you know, I'm very pessimistic in certain ways, but I'm very hopeful in other ways. An indie studio made up by Apex Legends developers, yeah, I thought that would be a good idea. But lo and behold, that was actually a mistake because it was developed by Apex Legends developers. Now, I have nothing against anybody who plays Apex Legends, I don't have anything against the developers who created Apex Legends, but it is a sign. I'm just saying it's a sign. What I'm saying on that point is that Apex Legends is a modern video game that was really kind of following a trend for battle royales. It pretty much had everything coded into it to be that live service game where everybody should be getting hooked. It's a first-person shooter. You're out in the middle of a gigantic map trying to survive against other teams, or by yourself if you like to play solo. But Apex Legends was a modern game. It was a modern game made to be a modern game for modern audiences, which is not even a problem because if you like Apex Legends, then that's perfectly fine. I mean, it was developed to be somewhat something of a spiritual successor, or supposed to be a successor, to Titanfall, which in my opinion was a good FPS that I played, but I didn't get really too into. I didn't become a super mega fan, I just liked Titanfall. But if you know the story of Respawn Entertainment, who created Apex Legends, the reason why they didn't make a Titanfall 3 was because they were taking advantage of the popularization of battle royales. They also took advantage of heroes being in video games, i.e. Overwatch. Basically, they wanted to make an Overwatch/Fortnite video game. And you know what? I think the developers who created Highguard took what they learned from Respawn and Apex Legends and tried to insert that in this game. Which in hindsight, if you looked at the climate of video games, that wasn't a good idea. I'm just going to say this right now because I do not know if anybody else is saying this, but Highguard is the product of its time, meaning it is the most modern video game of video games I have ever seen. It takes elements from all over the FPS genre. I mean, if you look at some of the gameplay, you are reinforcing and breaking into other people's bases, which means that you have some of Rainbow Six Siege in here. You also have collecting currency for which you can buy and upgrade yourself with armor and other equipment, having rarity on top of that. So you got a little bit of MOBA and a little bit of Apex Legends on top of this. You also have different heroes that you can play, so they also have the hero aspect via Overwatch. I mean, if you take a step back and look at it, it feels like it's taking a lot from other modern FPSs and trying to take the best of what made them work and just shoving it into this game. Which, to be positive, would be good for a lot of people out there who are just modern video game players. I mean, if you look deep enough, and I mean real deep enough in the Steam reviews, you'll find positive reviews. People who are very acclimated to modern video games. And their reviews show as such, which is not a bad thing. And to add to the other games that it takes from, I do feel that there's a bit of Valorant that's encoded into this. Valorant being the modern CSGO for a lot of younger gamers. I've read reviews who like the 3v3 because there is a chance for somebody to make a comeback with a 1v3, which is not very likely if you're playing against good players who will just murder you, and Arc Raider shows that. But it is possible, and I'm going to let them have it. They also related this to Valorant and CSGO with the large map, kind of. I'm not really too sure how they're going to relate it to that. It has the Valorant coding within, the CSGO coding within, but the large map is, well, really large and kind of unnecessary for a 3v3, in my opinion. And honestly, I don't think Highguard needs all the hate. I think it just needs criticism, to be fair. They apparently have a roadmap down the line with different episodes. They'll have new areas, new heroes, new weapons, and all that with each and every episode. But as you see, this is a live service game, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are tired of live service games. There are some reviews that say that the microtransactions and the loot box are not flaring up in their face like some sort of ad, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you're worried about a free game not showing ads and interrupting your gameplay, you're already seeped into how they want you to think.
We knew when we started we wanted to make a shooter, and we knew we wanted to make something that was live service. And so we've been planning for that for a very long time. In fact, we already have a year's worth of post-launch content already deep in development.
There's a lot of live service fatigue right now, right? These games tend to hit you with a FOMO, which I think players have gotten wise to, for good reason.
A free-to-play game that doesn't have FOMO usually doesn't succeed in the long term. And even though it doesn't have FOMO, and even though it doesn't have a loot box, it is still a free-to-play game with microtransactions. I think at this point, free-to-play games are made to be a bit different, and the best example I can give out there as a game that I play and it's free-to-play is PoE 2. And I'm not saying that I would recommend anybody playing a free-to-play game. I'm wholly really against it because I paid my way into PoE 2 and they gave me stash tabs in order to play the early access. I'd rather pay to play a game than play a free-to-play game. And that may be a hot take in today's day and age, but it is the truth and it's from the heart. And with Highborn being another free-to-play live service game, it's basically got its own lifespan. And live service games really do make or break on the retention of the players that they attract. If they do not retain their attention, then the game is going to ultimately fail, and from what I'm seeing, it probably won't last for another 6 months. And this all comes down to the fact that, again, I'm saying this so that you guys can understand that this is the most modern video game I've ever seen, taking from other modern video games that worked in a modern video game kind of trend. And I really shouldn't say kind of, it is an absolute trend-chasing developed game. Taking from other FPS live service games doesn't shift the genre of FPSs. It just makes this chimeric game that takes a lot of other elements, which is very noticeable, and it's going to turn it into another generic FPS with just those trending things that you try to add into it.
We're not going to make another BR, we're not going to make an extraction shooter.
We like the open world. We like the base building, we like the survival elements, we like the mobility on mounts.
It's taking all these elements from these different modes and putting them together.
And then that kind of transitioned into our prototyping phase.
To call it a Frankenstein's monster is a little too much because it's not really a bad game. I would say that this is more or less a homunculus with familiar parts that is just okay. It looks kind of like everyday John Goodman, the Jod video game, or Atticus if you did play Highguard, of the video game world.
We've picked our favorite things here and there, but I feel like we found a vision and stuck to it and created something that's genuinely new.
And because it is a product of its time, yes, there are going to be people who are going to love this game. There are people who are encoded and assimilated into the modern video game thought bubble, and that's perfectly fine. It's just that there are not a lot of them. People want to play something new, they want to play something exciting, they want to play something fun. You see a lot of indie games out there, and yes, this is technically an indie game, that push the genre without doing too much. They're not spending $50 or $100 million to make a game, they're spending as low as, well, nothing to make something. And a lot of those games that are usually costing nothing and somehow ending up in the Game of the Year awards is really telling. The reason why Jeff Keighley likes this game so much is because he himself represents the modern gamer, a person who will play those live service free-to-play games. And it's not like he doesn't play all those other games out there. It's not like he doesn't play indie games or any AA. He does play AAA games, of course, but it's not like he isn't a gamer from what I can see, but his taste has been acclimated to the modern time, ergo, the reason why he really likes Highguard. And there are going to be so many other people who will also love Highguard. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the streamers or content creators are liking Highguard.
Highguard just isn't a good game. I can just say it plainly here. You could make the argument that it has some good ideas, sure, but none of those ideas are actually finished, a lot like the game itself.
Fun game for the sweats. Finally, we get one. Dude, I know this is a fun game for people like me, and I know it's a fun game for like comp players and shit, and sweaty players, whatever. But like, I am not fully happy with the product that came out. I think the game is really, really good. The mode is really, really good. But like mouse smoothing, not enough video settings, not enough key binds, game crashes, low FPS, all of that stuff. Like, I just wish that stuff. Like, if it came out like that, bro. But, you know, I hope the hot fixes and the patches that they're going to put out this week, I hope they fix and iron out a lot of those issues.
That said, though, if they make some improvements, I'd be totally open to trying it again. But at least at this moment, Highguard, for me, 5 or 6 out of 10 at most. Maybe a 5 out of 10, actually. Maybe even a 4 out of 10. With the issues, it has a 4 out of 10. The gameplay loop is probably closer to a 6. Game itself in its current state is probably about a 4 out of 10.
Now, I've gone throughout this entire video being very neutral about this. I haven't really talked negative or positive in a way with Highguard, and I'm sure you guys want to know my opinion on Highguard. And to be honest, it's a very okay game. It's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just okay. It's better than Concord, so it's not Concord 2. That was very weird calling it a Concord 2, because Concord really was bad, but this is just okay. I did enjoy some aspects in this. I do like the fact that you can upgrade your equipment and find stuff out there. I do like the fact that the field is open enough for me to snipe people off their mounts. I think the destruction aspect of going into other people's bases and reinforcing yours, I thought that was kind of cool, even though I haven't made a single attempt into playing Rainbow Six Siege. And due to my history with Overwatch and Marvel Rivals and any hero shooter, I will say that I am not very impressed with the character roster.
When you take story and you think about characters deeply and you think about Highguard and this mysterious land, everything is reinvesting in the world we are building.
One thing that we wanted to do was make sure that like our magic felt not hand wavy. So everything kind of like emanates from a source on the characters, and the characters is kind of what creates that magic.
I mean, unfortunately, the characters don't look too interesting. The only ones who have some interest that I did play was Slade and Kai. But I played Slade because he looked like Ken, and his name is Slade. You know, Slade from Teen Titans. And Kai because they turned into a giant Yeti. But I did also play a little of Yuna, and I mean, when you make a hero, you want to make a character that any player is playing have some sort of personality. And they did that in Apex Legends, so it's kind of odd and strange that they're not really doing that here. And I mean, yeah, they all have personalities, but it's kind of generic feeling in some way. Like, Atticus is your John video game. He is the captain, the hero, so he is the most generic character in the game. And Slade's personality is interesting because it does remind me of Ken, but that's about it. Even Yuna is very generic, which is kind of weird because they are kind of like a masked spirit guardian person. But yeah, again, it just, I don't know, maybe it's because I've seen this personality all the time. And I can't really compare this to Overwatch or Marvel Rivals. Marvel, you can't really compare that to Marvel. Marvel is like its own universe. And Overwatch had really brilliant characters with really brilliant personalities, and they've built that up over the years. So yeah, you can't really compare it. But if you're going to compare it to Apex Legends, then yeah, it just looks generic. A lot of Highguard's personalities and their characters is just very generic. It is made by the same people. But as a reminder, these are ex-Respawn developers that created their own indie studio called Wildlight Entertainment Incorporated. And what I want to try to convey to them, to Wildlight Entertainment Incorporated, is that I'm not giving you negativity in the form of just being negative. I just criticize this game for what it is and how you gave it out to us. People have been complaining about the fact that it just does not work in terms of optimization. When some people play the game, there's a lot of frame skipping, a lot of people who are getting glitched out and finding bugs. It's not a good look if you send your game out like that. Now, that's something that can be fixed over time in a couple of weeks to a month, but the rest of the game, the things that I talked about before, that's going to take a while. If you are going to continue to develop this game, the very hurdle that you're trying to get over in terms of a gigantic hill is the game itself. I do not think, in my opinion, it was a good idea to take all these aspects and trends from FPSs from throughout the years in terms of live service and trying to cobble them together to create the next FPS. And what I fear is that people within the studio are going to either leave, break apart, split, or something like that, or just quit due to this what seems to be a big failure. These are very talented developers who have the ability to create a game that looks like this and feels like this. They have the ability to make really good video games. It just sucks that Jeff Keighley kind of ruined their chances with putting this at the end of the Game Awards. The tone has shifted in the gaming world. Not everybody is going to love a live service free-to-play game anymore. You're seeing a lot more people playing indie games rather than the AAA games that companies have been shoveling out to us. And Highguard, even though it was developed by an indie studio, is filled with people who worked in the AAA space and brought back what they've learned. So again, Highguard is a product of its time. But what do you guys think? Have you played Highguard? I mean, you can. It is a free game. Let me know in the comments, and hopefully Wildlight Entertainment Incorporated will have a response to this gigantic backlash.